The following program is intended for mature audiences.
You don't let it, Cleveland! You let it, Cincinnati!
Draw to Biner. Ernest Biner. Fumble the ball, and Denver has recovered. Oh, my!
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
I'm sorry. But I don't know. I thought I would be all up for diving right into the Browns, but it was like at the 11th hour, the Bengals were like, no one's going to out-stupid us when it comes to Ohio football.
I was saying when we were texting yesterday. Yes, the Browns are idiots. They do a lot of bad things, but that keeps them interesting. Is there an NFL team more irrelevant than the Cincinnati Bengals? I can't think of one. Especially after this, I don't even know what to say about this. Zach, you and I had talked about Marvin Lewis being fired for 5 years on Basically a Football Show.
I thought we had heard earlier in the season that he was going to walk away after this year.
The rumor,
am I wrong in hearing that?
No, because the rumor was he was going to step down. The Bengals were going to pull out some sort of trade with the Browns to get Hugh Jackson back down there. That was the rumor of the day.
So do you think the fact that the Browns kept Hugh Jackson on kind of screwed up their plans, and they're like, Marvin, want to come back?
I have no idea. I couldn't begin to tell you what that team thinks.
Because
I mean, but Mike, if you're Hugh Jackson, who would you rather be? The Bengals or the Browns? I legitimately don't know.
Right.
Yeah. This is, like I said, it was like, the Browns were ready to be like, we're the dumbest team in football. Look what we did. 0-16. But then the Bengals were like, no. Like, I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Like, no, no, they couldn't have.
I can't think of a single reason why you would re-sign that guy for what, another 2 years? Is that what he got, a 2-year extension?
Yep.
2 years.
I don't even get it. I just don't.
I could get like a 1-year extension. Be like, maybe there's some things that we thought went wrong this year, and we'll give you one more shot. But like, as you said, Greg, we've talked about this for 5 years with the Bengals. You know what Marvin Lewis is. You know what Marvin Lewis does.
He's got to be the longest tenured coach in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently.
I think easily he is. But it's just like, you wouldn't need to give him an extra year thing. There's no reason to do that, because it's not like, well, prove yourself. He's proven what he is, and he's mediocre at best.
Right.
And I guess they're perfectly okay with that. That's what this says to me if I was a Bengals fan.
That
we are perfectly okay being mediocre.
If I were a Bengals fan today, I would be so upset over this.
Oh, yeah.
Because this just sends the message that this team has no interest in being anything other than what they already are. And what they already are is a team that will occasionally make a playoff, lose in the first round.
And then lose to the Texans.
Right, and go home. And that's the end of it. But I don't understand this. Like I said, we talked about it on Basically a Football Show from the very first year we did that show, which was 5 years ago. At the end of the season, we would say, does Marvin Lewis survive? And we would be like, well, boy, I don't know. It's going to be tough maybe this year, but definitely not if he does this again next year.
So
here we are 6 years later, and he just got a 2-year extension. I'm just baffled by this.
So, friend of the show, McCarthy, had an interesting take. Oh, he basically said my only recourse as a fan right now is to just stop going to games.
Yeah.
And that's really all you can do. But he actually had a really good take on it, which is that when the Browns owner, the Bengals owner, Mike Brown, because the Browns family owns the Bengals, but not the Browns. It's weird. But, when Mike Brown inherited the team from Paul Brown, the team, was basically what the Browns are today, and were, just completely god-awful.
Right.
And Marvin Lewis, for all of his faults, really did do a lot to kind of shake the culture up and get it to a point where they could compete. And so from Mike Brown's point of view, it's like even going 7-9 every year and occasionally slipping into the playoffs with a 9-7 record, like even that mediocrity is still better than what it was pre-Marvin Lewis.
That's true, but I will counter that with this. At some point, you've just got to change the recipe because this is as good as it's ever going to get for them. He's shown that he's not going to take them any further than where they've gone. His personnel choices are interesting at best with guys like Vontaze Burfict and the problems that they have, disciplinary problems. I just don't know that this is the guy that you think can control this crew because clearly he can't. And he's just settled into the job now. I mean, at this point, he's got to think, I've got nothing to worry about. So why does he even try? What's his motivation right now? Tell me that. That's what I would be looking at if I were a fan or the ownership for that matter.
I mean, it's got to be the best job in the NFL.
Exactly.
Like, what's he got? What exactly does he got to do?
He knows. What did they do? What did they go this year? I don't even know what the record was. 6-10, 7-9, something like that.
6-10.
6-10 this year, and he got a 2-year extension. I mean, really?
Yeah.
What
Marty
does he have to play
Schottenheimer
for?
was fired after 14-2.
Right.
By the way,
Honestly, I think McCarthy said this too, or maybe it was. I think the reason he got the 2-year extension was because of the wins, the final 2 wins of the season.
Oh.
Like that's the only thing that makes sense to me is that he won some games near the end, especially the Baltimore game where it's like this big deal. They said, this is cool. We got somebody else into the playoffs. Good job, Marvin.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw any of that game yesterday, the Bengals Ravens or Sunday, excuse me.
I saw the final 5 minutes of the game.
Did the Bengals look like they were making any attempt to win that game to you?
No.
They were just throwing the ball around. I'll tell you what happened on that Dalton to whatever the guy's name touchdown pass. That was pure luck. Because I was watching this because I kind of wanted them to knock the Ravens out so the Bills would get in. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, you're not even trying hard. It sure seemed to me that the Bengals were just out there basically running plays, trying to kill the clock just so they could go home. And somehow or another, the football gods reached down and said, we're going to let this pass play be completed. You're going to score a touchdown. It wasn't because of some extreme effort on the part of the Bengals that they won that game because they were just mailing it in bigger than shit, and they just got lucky with the pass play. And then this guy gets a 2-year extension. I just don't understand it, and I never will.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even have the energy to make up thoughts about the Bengals because they're, like you said, Greg, they're kind of irrelevant.
They are.
They're not something that I have great thoughts about. Like the Browns, they're just this abhorrent smudge on NFL football, which is wonderful. We can discuss that, in varying lengths, as anyone that's heard the show knows. But the Bengals don't inspire too much than okay.
Yeah.
Sure, fine.
I'm serious though. If you're a Bengals fan right now, and I've said this about the Browns, but I think it even applies more so to the Bengals at this point. What do you have to look forward to? With the Browns, you never know. I mean, things could turn around, and who knows? You know that's not going to happen with the Bengals. You are where you are, and that's where you're going to stay. That's it. I mean, I talk about no hope, and in a weird way, I think the Browns have more hope at 0-16 than the Bengals do at 6-10. Because they've got the same coach.
No.
Okay, tell me where the Bengals. Okay, what are they going to do to improve?
The Bengals will be like, they'll be like they'll be anywhere between 6-10 and 9-7 next year. That's where they'll be.
And?
I don't want to jump the gun because I think there's a whole Browns discussion to be had, but it wouldn't shock me if they were 1-15 again next year.
That's not my point. That was not my point at all. My point is, if you're looking 10 years down the road, and you keep signing Marvin Lewis again, my point was simple. Marvin Lewis, he's not that old.
He'll be like 70 in 10 years. Like, there's no way he'll still be coaching.
My point is simply that right now, if you had to look at the future of both franchises. Granted, it doesn't look bright for the Browns, but when you look at the odds, which one has the better odds of turning it around? I have to say it's the Browns because we've seen what this Bengals staff can do. And it ain't going to happen with this crew. That's my point. No, the Browns are terrible. I wouldn't be surprised if I think I said when we were texting, is there a way for them to lose more than 16 games next year? Because that's what we're looking at. But in the overall scope, of which team has a better chance of turning it around, I think the Browns do, because the Bengals are, what they've been for the last however many years this guy's been there, and they've already shown they have no intention of changing that. This is what it is with the Bengals, and you either like it or you move along. Like McCarthy said, or you just quit going to games. This is what you got. And it's consistent, and that's nice, but it's just, you're right, 6-10 to 9-7. That's what they got to look forward to no matter what. I'll take the Browns' chances over that.
I mean, maybe they get lucky and have a 10-win season, and they were they were actually legitimately good for a minute, the last few years with Andy Dalton. But they just, like it was with Carson Palmer, like it was with those Andy Dalton teams, they never did anything with it, and they didn't really improve at all. Well, and as we've seen in the NFL, if you're not improving, you're constantly getting worse.
Well, again, you look at, what's the common factor between the Carson Palmer teams and the Andy Dalton teams?
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's Marvin Lewis. This is
right.
This is a problem with him. Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton are talented QBs. They've had talented wide receivers. They've had talented teams.
They've had good defenses.
Mm-hmm.
When Mike Zimmer was there until he went to the Vikings. But yeah, no, there's no reason Marvin Lewis should still be coaching that team.
None.
And my heart goes out to you, Cincinnati, because that's. Your ownership and your management has clearly shown that they don't really give a damn.
I had the same reaction to seeing that news that I did to the news that the Edmonton Oilers had won the draft lottery the year that McDavid was up, which was you kind of just laugh and you're like, no.
More of the same. Yeah, that's what the Bengals have to look forward to. More of the same.
I laugh. But let's go up. What's the major freeway there in Ohio?
71.
Greg? Let's go up I-71.
That's a fun drive, just so you know.
Okay, if you say so.
The Lifetime Achievement Award goes to the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, man.
Representing the land.
And I put it that way because somebody else mentioned it that way, and I thought it stood out. You look at the two teams that have gone 0-16 in the NFL. The 08 Lions and now these Cleveland Browns. The Lions...
Undefeated in preseason, I just want to point that out.
The Lions were just this comedic, this litany of comedic errors running out of the back of the end zone.
That was Orlovsky, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's stuff like that. That sticks out in your mind as, holy shit, this team is so bad.
The 2008 Lions have a special place in my heart. Because one of my best friends from university is a Lions fan, and I had a couple classes with him that year, and so every day, every week, it was just, you kind of just saw it chip away at him more and more on a daily basis.
So you have those Lions that were just so spectacular in their failure, and then you have these Browns that are they're just bad, and they've been consistently bad. We've said the numbers; they're 1-31. Over the last 2 years.
4 and something or other over the last 5, I think.
Yeah. And, somebody pointed out on the boards, too, that 10 years ago, the Browns finished, I think, with the 6th worst record in the league, something like that. And they had a better record at the time than the Green Bay Packers and the New Orleans Saints. Within 5 years, the Packers and Saints both won Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Whereas in the last 10 years, the Browns have not managed to get any better in any significant way.
They've degraded, actually.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but they've just, like we've talked about so many times, aside from the, kind of miraculous, when you look at it in the full breadth of it, the miraculous times that they've been semi-competitive, this is just what the Browns are. And that's why I said this is more of a Lifetime Achievement Award, because those lines were spectacular flash in the pan of badness. These Browns are they're just bad.
This is like the accumulation of every bad thing this team has ever done. Since 1999, it's all kind of just been rolling over year to year. Probably should have happened last year. Thanks, Chargers.
Yeah, honestly, I'd say there have been worse Browns teams than this one. This one just lost them all. That's
just to give you a little bit of historical perspective, teams that had never won a Super Bowl when the Browns came back in 99 that have now, Baltimore Ravens twice, the New Orleans Saints, who else? The Seattle Seahawks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who else am I missing here?
Patriots.
The Patriots, yeah. I mean, I don't even know what to say at this point. All I can say about the Cleveland Browns is if you are still living and dying with this team, and I've got to think it's mostly dying at this point, God bless you. I don't know how you're doing it. And I'll come back when I see a little bit of hope. Right now, I'm sorry, I've got to abandon this ship because between what this team did to me in the 80s and 90s and this, I'm just too old, and I've already had one heart attack. I got to step away for a while. Sorry. I can't get involved in this one. You guys are on your own. I'll come back when things look better. I don't even know. I mean, no one thought they were going to be a playoff team coming into this season. But I think we all thought they would be improved to maybe, say, 4 or 5 wins, right? You looked at the draft they had, and they picked up, they got Peppers. They got, what's the number 1 draft pick? I can't think of his name.
Oh, Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett. Yeah. They picked up that good tight end prospect out of Miami. Kaiser looked like he might be a decent project at quarterback. And you think, they got to win more than one game this year, right? Well, no. They didn't even manage that. They went 0-16. And like you said, Zach, they weren't spectacularly bad or like comically bad. They're just bad. They just can't win. I don't know what you do at this point, but... Are you
are you going to go to the 0-16 parade?
No, I think that's idiotic, and anybody that does is stupid.
Well,
celebrate this nonsense.
Another thing that kind of points out what do you do with this franchise. They've been around, 18 years now?
Yeah.
They've had 9 general managers in 18 years.
Yep.
That's no way to be successful.
No.
And I'm not saying that maybe they should keep some of these guys around and maybe they'll figure it out. But it, like has been pointed out in the Factory of Sadness video, it is statistically harder to be as bad as the Browns have been than it is to just, back-ass your way into the playoffs at some point. Hell, look at the Buffalo Bills. They were tanking. They traded away all these good players they had. Yep. And somehow or another, because the AFC is just butt this year, they managed to finally break through and make the playoffs. You're telling me the Cleveland Browns couldn't cobble together a season like the Buffalo Bills have had at some point?
Yeah, I'm telling you exactly that because that's exactly what happens.
I know.
It's just staggering is all.
It really is. How many times have I said the law of big numbers thinks that they would get one right just by accident at this point?
Yeah, accidentally just there are always a few teams. There's always going to be a season or two where some team comes out of nowhere and gets a 9-7 record and maybe wins a playoff game before fading back into obscurity, and they couldn't even do that.
Not since I forget the year they made 2002 was when they made the playoffs.
And they lost to
Tommy Maddox.
XFL MVP Tommy Maddox.
After leading the game 33-9, by the way.
Oh, God.
So if you wanted to see where it all started, I think that's probably where you'd go for page 1 of this disaster. I don't know what you do at this point. I like John Dorsey as a GM. He turned around the Chiefs quickly. I do think they've got some talent on this team. I think bringing Hugh Jackson back is a huge mistake. And that guy kills me. My understanding of it is that when he found out he was coming back, he's been acting pretty cocky about things. I don't know that I'd be doing that.
You don't get to be cocky after 0-16.
No.
You just don't get to be cocky. You're not allowed.
I would be up there going, thank you, good Lord above, for letting me have one more chance at this team. I'm humbled. And he's up there acting like, yeah, you know what? They should bring me back because I've got this ship on the right track. Well, no, you don't. I don't know. It's amazing to me.
But, I guess you could say put a different coach in there and they won't go 0-16. But put a different coach in there and how good can you make this group?
You can't. Their problem is look, it seems like a great idea, and I thought it was a good idea. Everybody, I think, thought it was a good idea back when they were doing it. Go with the complete youth movement. But something that I think everyone's kind of realized at this point is that you do need some veteran players on a team no matter what. Because these guys they're just so young. They don't know how to do anything. And I think that's their biggest problem is that they're just way too young. But they've got a lot of cap room to work with this year. But, boy, are you going to have a tough time selling a free agent on coming to the Cleveland Browns after a run of 1-31 over the last 2 seasons.
Bring back Johnny Manziel, last Browns quarterback to win a game.
Well, it sounds like he's going to the CFL, Mike.
Was he the last quarterback? I thought it was Luke McCown.
I was under the impression that Manziel.
No, Manziel was gone by then. That was just last year. Yeah. Yeah, it was McCown or Kessler or one of those guys. It wasn't Manziel.
Oh, I don't know. Like, the list gets so long. I can't keep track
Mike,
of everyone falls in it.
It's one game. All of us should know who it was. I mean, it's not like we had a lot to keep track of here. Shame on us.
God.
Well, there's something else I heard about the Browns today I wanted to bring up. I'll think about it. You guys go ahead. I know what it was. I know what it was. Real quick. Yeah. Sorry, Zach. I was listening to the BS podcast today, and they brought up a great point. Next year, it's not going to be about developing this team. It's not going to be about any of that. It's going to be about desperately doing whatever you have to do to finally win that game. That's all that's going to be about next year, and it's going to make it very difficult for Hugh Jackson or any other coach because that's going to be goal one, just win a game. So what do you let's say you get a Josh Rosen or a Sam Darnold as your quarterback. Are you going to do the right thing and progress them properly, or are you going to throw them out there and just try to win at all costs? And I don't know that that's a good thing either. I mean, this team is just in such a bad place right now. I don't know what you do. Yeah,
I don't know. Like you ask, like, what do you do to fix this team? And we've talked about it before with things like the Atlanta Falcons from last year, the Seattle Seahawks when they lost the Super Bowl. At a certain point, it just gets into a team so badly that they won't win, that they're just not a winning team. And
the stink's on them. They got that 0-16 stink.
Oh boy, do they ever.
I don't know. You have to purge the entire franchise. Get rid of all these players, get rid of all these coaches, the management. The owners are the ones that are supposedly started this whole thing too, right?
Yeah, I guess.
So I don't know.
I mean, they've blown it up so many times at this point. I've lost track of who blew it up and when and why.
By the way, we were asking who was the last Browns quarterback to win a game. The immortal RG3.
Oh, really? Was he the quarterback for that?
He was the quarterback that beat your San Diego football Chargers, Mike.
Oh.
I guess at this point, really, like I said, I like John Dorsey as a GM. What he did in Kansas City was pretty remarkable. My understanding, as things have come out now since they got rid of the other GM, I can't think of his name, but that a lot of the problems with the Browns were that the GM and Paul DePodesta, he's the baseball guy they hired, right?
Jonah Hill, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They wanted to go one way, and Hugh Jackson was more of a traditional football. Like, Hugh Jackson wanted to draft Carson Wentz, and the other two guys said no. And Hugh Jackson wanted to do this thing and that thing, and the other guys said no. So my understanding of it from the outside is that perhaps Dorsey and Jackson are more on the same page than Jackson and the previous GM group was, and that may be why they're giving him one more shot at it. Because I really thought when they hired Hugh Jackson that it was a pretty smart move. He's a good guy with quarterbacks. He's young and kind of enthusiastic, and that might be what this team needs. So I'm willing to give it one more shot. And I think that you will – but again, they've got to avoid going out there and just throwing everything out the window and trying to win at all costs, because that's not what that's just going to mess a lot of things up. But so I think that's why Jackson got to stay one more year, because I really think that he didn't get along with the first group, and I think that ownership likes him. I think that Dorsey maybe likes him, and we'll see. And who else are you going to get to come there anyway?
Yeah, I'm looking back through their schedules now. So let's go back to 2014 with the Browns for a minute. They were 7-4 in Week 12 of 2014 with Brian Hoyer leading the way. They then lost the last 5 games of the year.
Want to know why?
Including a 30-0 blitzing by the Bengals.
Wasn't that the year that everybody kept whining, put Johnny Manziel in, and they finally did, and the fucking thing went right down the tubes? Yep. Yeah. Hoyer threw for 332 yards against the Falcons for a 26-24 win to put him at 7-4. Then the next week he threw 192 and a loss to the Bills, 136 and a loss to the Colts. Then came in Manziel for the 30-0 loss against Cincinnati. And then it was all downhill. Yeah. They never recovered after that. Yep. And they changed uniforms and have won 4 games since.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what you do. I mean, I think you've almost got to just stay the course at this point. What I would do if I were them is I would use some of that cap money to go out, and you're not going to get the big-name veterans, so forget that, but get some guys that are good, solid players with experience that are willing to come there to work with these kids. That's about the only thing you can do. have a smart draft. Already there's talk now that they're not going to go with Rosen or Darnold if he comes up. They're going to draft a kid out of Wyoming because he reminds them of Carson Wentz. Well, right. Oh, my God, this sounds an awful lot like back in 2000 whatever when there was this kid from the MAC conference that was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and, he turned out to be a good quarterback, and the Browns said, well, gee, this kid from Akron reminds us of this guy from Pittsburgh. And so what we got was Pittsburgh getting Ben Roethlisberger, the Browns drafting Charlie Fry because he reminded them of a MAC quarterback that the Steelers did well with. And that's we've got to avoid that.
How about instead of drafting a guy who reminds you of Carson Wentz, you draft Carson Wentz?
Well, yeah.
I mean,
but I'm not going to put that on Hugh Jackson or the current front office because that wasn't them.
I'm not a football management sort of person, but I'm just spitballing ideas.
Well, no, and that's why they finally pulled the trigger on the old GM. I think what's his name, Sashi Brown or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
But that's why they got rid of him because this was his exact words. Carson Wentz will never be a top 20 quarterback in this league. Well, he was right. He's not a top 20 quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback. You fucking moron. But I don't know. I mean, they've got the number 1 pick and the number 4 pick. It's going to be hard to screw this up, but I got to say, I'm not confident that they're going to get it right.
You know what they should do? I thought about this when I saw that they had 1 and 4. Draft Rosen and Darnold.
I thought the same thing.
Draft them both.
Yep.
See what the hell happens.
Yep. What do you got to lose? What do you have to lose?
Seriously. If you can't pick between both of them, pick them both.
Yeah. Or, here's another idea, okay? If you do like the kid from Wyoming that much, pick either Rosen or Darnold, and at 4, grab the kid from Wyoming. Again, what do you have to lose? Nothing.
Yeah. You say that you want to fill everything out, you want to fill the whole roster, maybe you need a lineman or whatever. But we've seen it time and time and time again. If you do not have a quarterback, you are lost.
Yes.
And the Browns have never had that guy. So, yeah, what the hell? Why not?
Yep.
Get them both. See which one you like, and if one guy really steps out to you, trade him before preseason at the very least, and then let the other kid go to whatever else needs a quarterback. And you know how much you could get, in return for trading that guy, whoever it is.
I, and I think a few other shows I've heard other people have said that exact same thing. Take 2 of them. You've got the cap room. You've got more than enough draft picks. And is there really a player there at number 4 that is so much better than taking a chance and saying, you know what, we haven't had a franchise quarterback. By God, we're going to make sure we get one. We're taking 2 this time just to make sure we get one. I don't know what else you would do. Why not? You'd have to explain the logic to me on why not to do that, because I would take. I think that looking at it right now, especially after seeing Darnold's performance against the Buckeyes, wow, just not very poised. Rosen looked pretty good. And I guess this kid from Wyoming is a lot like Wentz in the fact that he's big, prototypical size and all that. So, okay, fine. Take Rosen at 1, take the kid from Wyoming at 4, and build out the rest of your team with the rest of your 35 picks you've got this draft. I don't see the harm in it.
Seriously. Yeah. I mean, it seems insane, but I think if you're the Browns, you have to try a little crazy at this point. Because trying to be measured and collected hasn't exactly worked for you.
No.
Well, and let's go back to what Greg said about the Bengals. As a fan, what do you have to look forward to? Okay, as a Cleveland Browns fan, what do you have to look forward to next year? What is the reason to be excited? At least if you do something like this, if you draft 2 quarterbacks with your 2 first-round picks, you send a message that says to the fan base, look, we know it's bad. We're willing to do anything to try to fix it. Look what we did. We're trying. We went out and we did a crazy thing because it just might work.
Yeah. And honestly, and as we just said, I don't know if it's that crazy.
I don't think it's crazy at all.
Because how often are you going to get, sure, you get the one guy that busts, but you're not going to get 2.
What is the draft order this year anyway? Let's run this through real quick because I want to see what the chances are of them actually being able to pull this off.
Although, to be fair, if any team could have two busts in one draft.
And that would cement their legacy as the worst thing to ever football.
Okay, here you go. You got the Browns at number 1. Okay, so one of the quarterbacks is going there. The Giants if the Browns take Rosen, Who's got the audio playing? Is that me? Hold on.
It's not me. I don't have anything to play.
It's me. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you've got the Browns at 1, Giants at 2, which, okay, like say if the Browns take Rosen, the Giants probably take Darnold, all right? 3, the Indianapolis Colts. They're not taking anybody. They got Andrew Luck. So there you are, Browns at 4. You've got the choice of Josh Allen from Wyoming. You can take a flyer on Lamar Jackson from Louisville. Baker Mayfield's sitting right there at that point. Darnold would be gone. But you see what I'm saying? I mean, I think it would be the smartest thing they could do. Because if they both work out, then you've really got yourself. You can hold somebody, hold a ransom over somebody's head to get rid of the other one. I don't know.
Really, the only thing the Browns would have to worry about at that point is the Broncos or Jets trading up.
Right.
But at that point, if that's out of your control, what are you going to do?
Right.
The only thing I would have to worry about if I were the Browns is the Broncos or Jets trading up to probably 3. Because, like you said, if the Colts are really okay with Andrew Luck and his supposedly better shoulder, then they're not going to get a quarterback. So,
well, do you think with Luck, the reason I am wondering if he's not in better shape than they're saying he is, just because they didn't want to play. They weren't going anywhere, so why stick him out there? Give him a full year to heal up, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know, but the Browns are. I tell you what, people might think it's nuts. I think it's the smartest thing they could do if they drafted 2 of those guys. I really do. I don't know if it's ever happened before, but I'd sure like to see him do it.
Yeah, it would be a gutsy move that shows that they're at least serious about trying to fix the problem. Like
I said, they come out and they go, look, we have had a tough time getting a franchise quarterback. We are leaving nothing to chance this time. We're taking 2 of them. And one of them will work out, or if they both work out, then we're going to have a hell of a trade to make with somebody down the road. Yeah.
Yep.
But I don't know, because I don't know that. I don't know that I think what they need most, because they were in a lot of games this year. They aren't. Yes, they're 0-16. They're bad, but they aren't as far away as people think they are, if that makes any sense. Like the Lions, you just need whoa, boy, this is just a horrible team. But I think with some experienced players and a good quarterback, they could be more competitive than they are right now. I don't think they're hopelessly far away. They're really, really far away, but it's not, oh my God, we're fucked far away. Okay, talking good teams now.
So in the AFC, because I think that was a little bit more interesting as the way things played out on the last Sunday of
the American Football League.
AFC. So really the intrigue came down to the Titans, Bills, Chargers, and Ravens all fighting for the last 2 wildcard spots. Going into the day, the Ravens had a 95% chance of making it. Let's reiterate that.
Yeah, and thanks Ravens for screwing my prediction.
And how could they fail with the elite Joe Flacco at the helm?
Especially when he's up against freaking Andy Dalton. But I digress. Let's go.
So the way things played out, there was going to be tiebreakers involved, in many ways. 4-way ties, 3-way ties. So the Titans were the easy ones. They were winning or in. They beat the Jaguars 15-10. Marcus Mariota played well. Blake Bortles threw a couple interceptions. He had a normal Bortles day. And the Titans beat the Jaguars. And so that was interesting for a couple of reasons, because it looked like that if things were going to hold as many assumed, that the Titans would get the 6th seed. They would then play the Jaguars next week again. And so the Jaguars weren't necessarily playing their best, to not show them anything in preparation for the next week. So the Titans get in based on that. In Los Angeles, of Carson, of Oakland, of Las Vegas, the StubHub Center, the black hole descended upon Carson, California.
It was bad. It was bad.
There was a lot of black in the crowd. A lot of silver and black.
It's almost like people in L.A. would rather have the Raiders as a second team than the Chargers. But
you could actually make that assumption, I think.
It was kind of funny because the Raiders took out a full-page ad in all the Southern California newspapers advertising their Las Vegas stadium.
No.
And it was a color ad, but of course the Raiders color is black. So it was a whole page of black ink, basically. It was kind of awful. Anyway, so the Chargers beat the Raiders. They actually played pretty okay. 30-10. Phillip Rivers, good day. So the Chargers kind of screwing things up here. Now you've got the opportunity for 3-way ties amongst the final grouping, and if there was a 3-way tie, I think the Chargers would still be left out, and the Bills might have still gotten, or the Bills would have been left out.
The Bills would have been left out. The Bills would have been left out because the Chargers beat the Bills in the Nathan Peterman game.
Right. So that's all going on. The Bills, they get their win in the afternoon. They beat the Dolphins. They play pretty well, do what they have to do. So they're at 9-7. The Titans are at 9-7, and the Chargers at 9-7. But the Ravens somehow, almost inexplicably, were down 17-10 to the Bengals. And it just seemed like, well, what the hell are they doing? Well, the Ravens put their heads back on straight, and they take a lead late in the game, and it's like, okay, the Ravens are going to win. They'll get in. The Bills and Chargers will be on the outside looking in, and the Titans will be in the playoffs, and that's that. Cut dry. And then the Ravens decided to stop playing. I don't know.
Well, they saw the Bengals weren't playing, and they thought, why should we bother?
You get down to a 4th and 12. 4th and 12. The Bengals with nothing to play for.
And I want to reiterate this.
12.
I want to reiterate this. If you watch that game, the Bengals, you can say whatever you want. For the last 5 minutes of that game, they were going through the motions, just trying to get it over with to go home. They didn't give a damn if they won or not. So back to 4th and 12.
4th and 12. Andy Dalton just kind of chucks it up. There's a receiver. He gets it, but he's going to get tackled, right? Nope. Just spins and outruns the defenders that didn't look all that interested in trying to tackle him for whatever reason. And the Bengals upset the Ravens. The Ravens drop from the 5th seed to out of the playoffs. The Titans move up to the 5th seed. And inexplicably, circle the wagons.
The Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, but aren't you kind of happy for the Bills fans?
Oh, I'm very happy.
1999.
Yeah.
I think someone like people were doing the whole thing like last time the Bills were in the playoffs kind of thing, and it's like Bill Clinton was president. You got your movies via Blockbuster. And someone was like, I didn't have kids at the time, and now my son is 16.
Well, and
I was 9 years old. I didn't even care about NFL football at that point. I was an NFL football fan.
My internet was dial-up over AOL.
Yeah.
Back then,
Oh, yeah.
I was 12.
Well, to give you some real perspective on it, okay? The last time the Cleveland Browns had made the playoffs since the last time the Bills had. So that's a stretch, folks.
The Bills were the longest drought in the NFL.
Yep.
At the time. And they've made it in.
12. I hadn't even had my bar mitzvah yet when the last time the Bills made the playoffs.
And that was the Music City Miracle, right?
Yeah, that was apparently the Doug Flutie curse. That's what that was, apparently.
Yeah. And it's funny because how many years, Greg, to talk about things that we talked about all the time on the football show, do we talk about the Bills and they'd be 4-0, 4-1, and maybe they'll do it this time. Oh, no, not this time. Oh, maybe, not really. They finally cracked the code. The AFC had to be the worst it's been in years for them to get
It had to literally be garbage football, but they did it.
They did it.
Don't the Bills... Go ahead.
You bring up the Nathan Peterman game, all the things this team's been through this season, and somehow they made it to 9-7 and into the playoffs.
Doesn't this team feel like, if there ever was one, a team that is the 6th seed because we have to have a team in that spot?
Yeah.
That's what the Bills feel like. I don't. You can't say they backed their way in because they won the game they had to win to get in, but they still backed their way in. Okay, so the Chargers beat them, right?
Yeah, that was the Nathan Peterman.
So how did the Chargers at 9-7 not get in and the Bills did?
Tiebreakers. Let me see if I can find it.
No, but the first tiebreaker should be head-to-head, shouldn't it?
But it was a 4-way tie.
Oh, right.
So I think in the case of a 4-way tie, it then goes to division.
Yeah. So here we go. Tennessee, Buffalo, Baltimore, and LA, Carson, were all 9-7.
Costa Mesa, I'll have you know.
The Titans get the tiebreaker over Buffalo, the Chargers, and Baltimore based on win percentage in conference games, which they were 8-4 in conference. Buffalo was 7-5, Baltimore was 7-5, and the Chargers were 6-6.
Okay.
Buffalo gets in over Baltimore based on strength of victory, which is 396. I think that's the win percentage of the teams they beat.
Okay.
So the winning percentage of the teams Buffalo beat was 396. Baltimore was 299. The Chargers were 347. And so Buffalo also gets the tiebreaker over the Chargers based on wins in conference games, which was they were 7-5. Like I said, Chargers were 6-6. And Baltimore even finishes ahead of the Chargers based on conference percentage. So the Chargers were basically on the bottom rung of every single, not in strength of victory, but near the bottom in every single one of these tiebreakers. So the Chargers had to get in, like, legitimately.
Now you really go back to that couple of kicks they missed and stuff and see just how much that cost them. Wow.
Yeah.
Because I think they could have been dangerous in the playoffs. I don't think the Bills are going to scare anybody. Like, there isn't a team in the AFC right now they look at and go, yeah, they could get hot, and you don't know. I don't see maybe the Bills could beat the Jags. Wouldn't that be hilarious if they did? That I could see happening, yeah.
Yeah. So that's how the AFC shook out. The NFC was a little bit easier to decipher. Philadelphia had already clinched the number 1 seed. They played one of the most worthless football games that's ever been put onto paper. The 6-0 beatdown of or beating by the Cowboys,
which I believe Rockstar Matt said was a hell of a game.
Yeah,
did he?
Yeah.
Do you think Philadelphia is feeling a little bad about Nick Foles right about now?
I would be if they're not. I certainly would be.
I don't know how much he played in that game, but I saw them play the Raiders, last week, and that wasn't great. And if he played in this game, they obviously didn't score anything. So
he played, I think, a half maybe or a quarter. He didn't play the whole game. I know that.
Look, like the Eagles' chances of actually doing anything substantial ended when Wentz went down. They're not doing anything.
This is worse than what happened to the Raiders last year when Carr went down. And you just knew their chances were shot. I mean, this Eagles team, I think they were legit Super Bowl contenders.
They were. And now it's all
Wentz, I don't see it.
Without Wentz, I think now it's just down to the Vikings and the Rams in the
Well, we'll get to that when we start talking about projections and stuff. But yeah, it's a shame that happened to the Eagles because they were fun to watch. They were well balanced, good team. I don't like Philly teams as a rule, but this one I liked. I enjoyed watching them play.
The Vikings won in the early game, so they were the number 2 seed. Then it was kind of a mix-up between the Rams and whoever was going to win the NFC South. The Saints lost to Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Rams sat everybody and lost to the Niners, so that's fine. In my best-looking game of the week, though, Craig.
Mine was Bills Dolphins followed by Rams 49ers.
Yeah, that was that. I mean, that's what Rams 49ers should look like. That was pretty damn near perfect. In the sunlight, the throwback blues and just
fantastic. No doubt about it.
So the Rams got locked in to 3. The Saints could have. The Panthers then had the opportunity to potentially win the division, but the Falcons won, beating the Panthers. So the Panthers were locked in at 5. New Orleans won the division at 4. And with the win, the Falcons clinched the final playoff spot in the NFC, which meant Seattle would lose. And the best part was, not only did Seattle lose out in the playoff spot, they lost to the Cardinals anyway. So they wouldn't have made it even if Atlanta lost.
Fuck off, you pretentious prick, Russell Wilson.
So Russell Wilson has extra time to save all the children with leukemia, and we can move on without.
They still finished 10-6 this year, didn't they? Or did they go 9-7?
9-7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least finally, after all these years where we said they might finally be out, they're finally out. We do not have to worry about the Seattle Seahawks this year, and that's really nice.
I said, like we alluded to earlier about teams with a mentality, I still think that Super Bowl loss is kind of haunting them.
I think a little bit, probably, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if they're not as injured, they probably still make the playoffs this year. They were
right.
Injured.
Yeah, I mean, they got beat up pretty bad. Like starting at about week 10, probably these people started dropping.
But even just the way that they played down the stretch, I mean, the way that when I saw them play the Rams and they just got dump trucked. It's just like that. That's not the same Seattle Seahawks team that we've seen. Injuries or not, Seattle doesn't lose like they did in the last few games. So,
well, another thing too. I mean, you had all the injuries, and you got to remember too that this team's starting to age a little bit. I mean,
oh yeah,
their ascension was about 4 or 5 years ago, so they're coming down the other side of the hill now. Well, whatever the case, they're not in the playoffs, and I'm happy.
In typical Pete Carroll fashion, there's rumors that he might, be out, not be fired, but he might leave.
Oh yeah.
Why? Because he missed the playoffs for 1 year.
Well, now the work starts.
No, Pete Carroll knows what he's doing. I mean, he left USC just before the Saints, and he might leave Seattle just before they have to start dealing with paying everybody and not re-signing guys and getting old and missing the playoffs. He might just be like, oh yeah, you know what? I don't want to do all that work. Bye.
He has a real talent for being one step ahead of the I don't know what the word is, but he's always good at getting out of town at just the right time. He's very good at that. Yeah, that's his calling card. So, there's already been a fair amount of coaches that have hit the pile, and we'll probably talk about that in a minute. But he's potentially there. He's not there yet, but it's a rumor that I heard. Really?
But it's a rumor.
So let me ask you guys this real quick. Outside of the the Patriots and the Steelers, would you pick any of the remaining AFC playoff teams to beat the San Francisco 49ers in a head-to-head matchup right now?
No. Not with Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know. The Niners are going to be interesting next year. Anyway, go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I don't think I would. No. I don't. Yeah. Well, here's the thing too. Garoppolo hasn't actually re-signed with the Niners yet either.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that would be terrible for the Niners fans. Oh man.
Hey, you know what? I was thinking about it and just kind of looking at the way the division was set up. I was like, oh, the Rams, we're winning the division. It's gonna be great. And then I'm like, oh wait, there's Jimmy Garoppolo. God damn it, if I don't want to have to duel him, every year for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
So I'm okay if that somehow gets, bungled.
Where is he from originally? Do we know?
Garoppolo?
Yeah.
He went to Eastern Illinois.
Huh.
Small school guy. But as somebody said, he went to the Tom Brady finishing school. So
yeah. Did he ever?
Yeah. But honestly, what I think the biggest upset of the entire weekend was? The fact that Bills Jaguars is not the early game on Saturday.
Yeah, I know, right?
How in the world is that not the ESPN game this year?
I don't know.
Somehow the Titans get that spot with the Chiefs. They're the first game on Saturday in the AFC wildcard.
No, I mean, do we really want to see Marcus Mariota versus the Andy Reid show?
I do. You got my irrational confidence Titans against my fourth favorite team, the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm there, man.
All right.
I mean, do you really want Blake Bortles, Mike?
Well, at least the Bills are kind of a feel-good story.
Tyrod Taylor versus Blake Bortles.
Hey, we don't know if Tyrod Taylor's starting, all right? For all we know, go back to that Nathan Peterman well.
At this point, for me, it's all about the best uniform matchup, so I'm taking Chiefs-Titans. That's a good one.
Yeah.
As long as the Titans don't screw it up and go mono blue, which if they're in Kansas City, they won't.
They're in Kansas City. They'll be
look good. Chiefs wearing their normal home uniforms and the Titans do white over Columbia blue. That would look sharp. All right. Anyway, let's get back to the actual important stuff.
So what do we think about this one? Chiefs, Titans, AFC wildcard.
Oh, it's hard to say which Chiefs team shows up. The one from the first 4 games of the season, the one from the middle of the season.
Do the Titans run a cover 2?
Probably, since pretty much everyone does.
The Titans were funny. When they try to set up in a traditional offense and do things slowly, they're easily stopped. They're not that great.
They're not good at all.
But when they go up tempo, they're actually they move the ball pretty well, and they're kind of a scary team like that. But it's looking like it's going to be 36 degrees in Kansas City at kickoff. So I don't know how the Titans will be able to move too quickly in that sort of weather.
Well, that's pretty much common weather in Nashville this time of year too. So it's not unusual for either team. And 36 isn't bad. That's pretty good football weather.
I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. I don't know. I know you got irrational confidence in the Titans, but
it ain't that irrational.
They're not good. They're not a good team, no. and I think the Chiefs have the Chiefs have shown that they can be a good team. Not always a good team, but they can be a good team.
The Titans, to win this game, I think, would have to do the ball control thing. Keep pounding it with DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. limit the passing as much as they can and keep the Chiefs' offense off the field. Short of that, I think the Chiefs win this one pretty easy.
Yeah, I'll take the Chiefs too. Yeah, I think it's just like you said. It's if both teams play up to their potential, then the Chiefs are the ones that are going to be taking this easy. The Titans, like we said with the Bills, if this was any other season, the Titans aren't making the playoffs.
No, it's
a bad year in the AFC, and the Titans just happen to be one of the fifth best out of a bad bunch.
But to go back, just to give another analogy to the Browns here, I've been calling the Titans my irrational confidence team for 5 years. They finally made the playoffs. Why? Because the law of big numbers said that eventually I'd be right if I kept saying it. That doesn't happen with the Cleveland Browns. Just the point I'm making. That doesn't happen that way for the Browns. All right, so what do we got next?
The Saturday night game, NBC primetime in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. The NFC West champion Rams hosting the AFC South wild card and Super Bowl runner-up Atlanta Falcons.
This could be a good game. This could be a really good game.
This could be a good game that I might just be swayed enough to buy tickets for.
Nice.
I think I have to do it.
I in terms of predictions, I think I nailed the NFC West championship.
Yes, you did.
The NFC West title going to the Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to say that all things being equal, I got to stick with the Rams. Like I was with them before the season started. It paid off. They're a good team. I can definitely see how the Falcons could win this game, but I got to stick with what brought me to the dance. I'm gonna put one in for the Rams on this prediction.
My thing with this one is the only concern I would have is that the Falcons do have the playoff experience that the Rams do not. But I think the Rams are just more talented. You go running back for running back. I'm going to take Todd Gurley over Devontae Freeman. The Falcons' receiving core at first blush would make you think they're way better, but Julio Jones has had kind of a down year. And what's the dude's name that was injured, Zach, for the Rams is coming back? The receiver? I can't think of his name.
Receiver? Oh, Robert Woods?
Yeah, he's coming back.
Yeah.
I think that – and the Rams they're just good. They're just a really good team. So I think that the Falcons could make this interesting, but I think with them on the road – and last year still kind of hanging over him. I like the Rams in this one. Pretty easy, I think.
Yeah, the Falcons only scare me because of the offense. Yeah. That I know, if they're clicking, then they can. If it ends up being a shootout, then the Falcons could hang with that potentially. But I do like this Rams defense a whole lot. And
I forgot about the Rams defense up front. Aaron Donald's a beast, man.
Aaron Donald's a monster. Robert Quinn on the other side is great. Al Ogletree at the linebacker core is great. They've had some injuries on defense, which has kind of hurt, but they've still been an excellent group.
Real quick on the Rams, because they're scoring 30-some points a game, what gets lost is that defense is pretty damn solid, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's where they get those blowouts from during the season. The offense is clicking, the defense is good enough. So you get these 30-point wins occasionally. The only concern I would have is because, like you said, they're not experienced, and they're also not experienced with taking a whole week off like they did in Week 17.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not against that decision at all because that game it really didn't mean anything. If the Saints had won and they'd fallen down to the 4 seed, and they were playing Carolina, so what? No big deal to me if they had to play the Panthers instead of the Falcons. And I think that's the same way the Rams saw it, and even so, I think another reason that they were resting guys, if the Seahawks had won and the Falcons had lost, despite beating the crap out of them a couple weeks earlier, I did not want to play the Seahawks for a third time.
No,
so I would have
been that.
I would have been okay if they fell to the 4 seed. So things kind of worked out. But it's just a matter of they've been so good on first drives this season. Even in the games that they lost, they still scored in the first drive, I believe. In Minnesota, at least, that was the only time they scored all game was they scored the first drive, and they've been really good about that. Now, just taking a week off, how does that affect the rhythms and all that sort of thing? But I think I think any concerns like that, Sean McVay in his first year has shown that he's a pretty damn good head coach. He kind of knows what he's doing, even though he's a young guy, a first-year guy. So I have faith in
Hey, now,
team,
he's only in that position because Jeff Fisher left him in good shape.
Oh, that was. Did you see that, Greg?
No.
About Jeff Fisher? He said that he feels that he had some part in the Rams' success.
Oh, please.
Because without him, they wouldn't be where they were.
They probably would have been better, actually. Gee, are you kidding me?
He actually said, "I left them in good shape to succeed."
And the God's honest truth, guys, I've been watching football for a very, very long time, and I cannot think of another team that so just perfectly and clearly illustrated how bad a coach was as this year's Rams team did with Jeff Fisher, where it just made it so painfully obvious that this guy just wasn't a very good coach. Because let's be honest, the personnel with the Rams isn't that much different than it was last year. And look at the difference in this team. They went from, what did they go last year? 4-12, I think.
They were 4-12 last year,
and they're 11-5 this year, with basically the same cast of characters. Give me a break, Jeff Fisher. The best thing you did for that team was leave. Yeah. Screw him.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Wow, I can't believe that.
That was one of like. At a certain level, I kind of respect it. Like, man, it takes a lot of guts to just say something that boldly untrue, like in public.
I mean,
on a national stage. Like, wow, man, I guess that's good on you. I guess
when we did the preview show for the football show last year, we talked about the Rams. We thought had enough talent to make a run at a playoff spot last year.
Mm-hmm.
And he took that team and made them painful to watch. Not only were they not good, it was just brutal watching them try to play. They were just so god-awful. And again, now obviously it's the NFL, so you always get personnel turnover, but this is essentially the same team from last year. And they're not boring anymore. They're a whole lot of fun to watch. They're a serious Super Bowl contender, and I got news for you, Jeff Fisher. You had nothing to do with that. Nothing.
Yes, 100%. But the moral of the story is, why the hell would I not pick these Rams right now?
Right.
Another thing that needs to be brought up is that, the Falcons have more playoff experience, but again, that's kind of tainted with the quote-unquote stank about kind of what they have experience, right? But it doesn't matter how big it is. You know that if the Falcons are going into the fourth quarter with a lead, they are second guessing everything they're doing.
Well, I would say this too, that I think with experience, maybe I'm sure it's important, but probably more so in, say, a conference championship game or a Super Bowl than it is in a first round playoff game. Not to say that it's not important, but I don't know that it holds that much sway over a first round game. And I think the Rams are just the better team. Simple as that.
Yep. No, I agree.
Yeah.
Rams. On Sunday, the opening game on CBS is the Bills at the Jaguars. Your AFC South champion Jaguars. Now, you say that they're a division champ, but there was only a game in between them. Jags are 10-6, Bills are 9-7.
Oh. It's hard to say. I don't know this Bills team. I don't think they're very good. They're not terrible or anything, but they're not good, right?
I've got to. I want to say Buffalo. I really want to say Buffalo.
I tell you this, I would not bet money on this game for anything. There's just no way.
Oh, it's probably a shit show. The line all the way through. I really do want to say Buffalo, but I'm going to say Jacksonville because I honestly don't think the Jags are a very good team either. I know they got an impressive defense, but Blake Bortles is not going to win you anything of much value. It's just not happening. And I think so. It's a bad Jags team. It's a bad Bills team, but I think the Jags have an impressive defense that if that defense plays up to their potential, I think the Jags will be fine, assuming that Bortles doesn't Bortle the game away.
Okay, on that Jags defense, I forget which show I heard this on. It might have been Dan Patrick or Bill Simmons. I don't remember. But if you look at the Jags defense, you think it's really good until you notice, like, when they play good teams, they give up a lot of points.
Yeah, but the Bills aren't a good team.
Right, that's true. But everybody's like, Jacksonville's got this great defense when they're playing bad teams, yeah. But the good teams don't seem to have too much trouble with them. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb here because there's always one of these in every playoff. I think the Bills pull the upset in this one. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to win this game.
Tyrod Taylor will lead them to victory?
Tyrod Taylor leads them to victory, yep.
Yeah, I think if there was a game that's going to have that, it might be this one. But I can't do it.
Oh, LaShawn McCoy's hurt, isn't he?
Is he? I don't think so.
He's not 100%. Retract that. I'm going to go with the Jags. If McCoy was 100%, I'd say yeah, but you know what? Screw it. What do I got to lose? I'm sticking with the Bills. Bills all the way.
Sure. What the hell?
Right.
I go Jags. I think the defense is still good enough, and Bortles, despite his 2 interceptions last week or whatever, he's shown that he can keep it within himself, and they can run the ball.
Yeah, I mean, if that team, if they get clicking and on both sides of the ball, they can be dangerous. I mean, they've looked good at times, but I'm going with my Buffalo Bills because nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Nobody. So Jags, Bills. Okay. The final game on Fox, Sunday afternoon, Panthers Saints, a rematch, divisional rematch. Of course, I believe the teams split their 2 matchups this season. So Panthers.
The Saints won both. Let me check that real quick.
Maybe you're right.
I'll look while you're setting it up here.
Anyway, I'm saying Saints.
Yeah, they did. They actually did beat the Panthers both times. You're right. Yeah, I go Saints too. They beat them twice. I know it's hard to beat a team 3 times and all that stuff, but the Panthers just, they're somehow 11-5. They were, this could have been a 12-win football team, if they had beaten Atlanta and won the division in Week 17 somehow. But I still don't think that they're all that good. Like, Cam Newton's a little bit worse. The defense isn't there. The running game isn't as good.
They can't. They run okay. They can't pass the ball lately.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that they are where they are. To be perfectly honest, and like I'm looking at the standings and such. Their point differential isn't all that great either. So they won a lot of games, but it's not like they were blowing anybody out in any of these things. I'm
taking the New Orleans Saints, and I'll tell you why, because looking at some of the stuff over the past few days, I come to find out that the Saints went, 11-5 this year?
Yes.
Playing one of the toughest schedules in the league, which I think is good for something. And I've liked this team since they started showing that they were a playoff contender, and I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say that these will be your NFC champions, the New Orleans Saints.
Whoa.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man.
Yep. The New Orleans Saints, 2017 NFC champs. So I like them to win this game.
Wow.
Of course, they'll probably lose by like 13 now, but whatever.
No, I think they'll win this one. I think you can mark it down.
I think this NFC, though, has got a really good playoff field, and we can end up with a lot of really good matchups out of this.
I mean, in terms of just quality, the NFC just wipes the floor with the AFC this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we said, it sucks that the Eagles are going to be a little bit worse than we anticipated. So if things go as we just said, and the Rams win and the Saints win, then your second round in the NFC is Vikings-Rams, which was not as good of a game as it could have been when the Rams went up there earlier in the season. But, I can probably guarantee you that the same thing won't happen twice. It'll be at least a competitive game.
Do you see this Vikings team? I don't know how they're doing this. I mean, I know the defense is really tough.
The defense is tough, but I still can't. I've seen Case Keenum, friends.
Yeah.
And yes, you'd say, well, Jared Goff wasn't good with, what's his face? Jeff Fisher last year, but I'm sure Jeff Fisher taking credit for Case Keenum too at some point.
The thing with that is that, Jared Goff wasn't good last year with Jeff Fisher, but Jared Goff was a rookie. We've seen Case Keenum. I mean, I don't know where this came from with him. I don't know who's coaching him at Minnesota, but that guy deserves a raise or something. A new car, I don't know what, new wardrobe, something, but he's doing a hell of a job. But I just don't see the Vikings. I mean, if you look at it, the path is kind of there for them to actually be the first team to ever play the Super Bowl in their home stadium, because they could, having watched them play all season, they're capable of winning the NFC. I don't know how they would do it, but they're capable of doing it, and I just don't get it because they don't look that good, but here they are.
Yeah, no, they have the opportunity. I just can't. I still can't, despite the 13-3 record, despite all that, I still can't buy stock in Case Keenum in an offense. I just can't.
I can't either.
Casey Keenum. He's going to prove you all wrong.
Well, maybe.
I don't know.
And again, I'm going to be biased about it, but I would take the Rams in a rematch. And I think the Rams are playing much, much better at the end of the season than they were when they went Minnesota even. So this is huge for them to kind of prove themselves that they can beat this team too. Cause I think that they all said that they didn't play their best, but they went in there. And if they can get Todd Gurley working early, then they'll be good. And one of the things that derailed the Rams in that game was the Vikings controlling the line of scrimmage, whether it was defensively or offensively running the ball. And I think, again, that the Rams are better now than they were then, and that Rams D-line can get after it, and that Rams offensive line can, obviously, seeing what Todd Gurley's done this year, they can run the ball.
And all that being said and done, you still got to look at it and go, it's Case Keenum.
The New Year's Six, as we
first,
call
can
them.
I just say congratulations to Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines for completely screwing the Big Ten out of a perfect bowl season record? Nice job, guys.
So I watched that game, actually, and I texted you guys as it was happening. Like, well, look at that. Like, the Michigan Wolverines are choking away the game because, goddamn it, Jim Harbaugh, he sucks.
16-point lead, and you lose. I don't even know what to say. But at least, again, I don't care about this stuff, but, with all the flack the Big Ten's taken over the years, for them to go undefeated in bowl season would have been pretty cool. And
I mean, Big Ten had a hell of a day.
Yeah,
hell of a day.
Leave it to Michigan, though. Nice job. Way to go.
Like, good job, Michigan, on all that money paid to Jim Harbaugh. Like, he can't beat their two biggest rivals.
Nope.
Which, because of the magnitude of those games, always means that they can't make the playoffs.
Right.
And then they go and fucking blow chunks in the bowl game they do get. Like, what are you paying for, Michigan?
That's a good question because he has not delivered on anything at this point. Here's the question. Are they any better now than they were with Brady Hoke? That's my question. I don't think they are. I think they're pretty much the same team. But I watched a lot of I watched a lot of the Capital One Fortnite Bowl games, and I got to be honest, it was not a good bowl season for the most part. There were a few good games here and there, but overall it was kind of like, Even I was getting sick of the college football at one point. So I'm fine with just talking about the Big Six and going from there.
Yeah. So the first of the New Year's Day 6 bowls.
Wait, one more thing before I forget. I predicted on the last show, not the Star Wars show, but the one before that, we were talking about the bowl games that week, and it was Toledo, Appalachian State, and I said, put your money on Appalachian State, and I was right. They won 34-0 over my beloved Rockets.
I'm sorry, Greg.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for showing up, Toledo. That weekend, neither of my teams scored a single point that weekend in football. The Packers lost 16-0, and the Rockets lost 34-zip. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Go ahead, Zach.
The New Year's 6, which starts on December 29th, because...
Reasons.
Well, no, because the college football people thought, people will watch games on New Year's Eve, except they won't. I guess we won't play them on New Year's Eve anymore. So now they stretch them out a little bit. So the first one was the Cotton Bowl Classic.
Yeah.
Between Ohio State and USC. And from the gun, this thing was all Buckeyes. Sam Darnold throws a pick six on his first drive. And that's all she wrote, really. 24-7, the Buckeyes, all the points in this game scored in the first half.
Buckeyes defense played outstanding in this game, but again, not a lot of excitement after the first half. But I don't know.
Rushing touchdowns.
If you're an NFL scout, are you worried about Sam Darnold's performance in that game?
I mean, yeah.
He lost his poise when they started smacking him around a little bit, and that would concern me. Now, it's only one game, and it happens to everybody, but do you know how the NFL scouts are?
Yeah, and I think if you look at Sam Darnold's body of work, And I think if you compare last year's USC team to this year's USC team, you look at a guy that's playing on Sundays right now, Juju Smith-Schuster, who was his wide receiver last year, and you say, hey, Sam Darnold could use a guy like that.
Yeah.
So I think, he still was 26 to 45, 356. He has good numbers. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. Put him in the right situation and he'll be fine. But there are marks on his resume like this one, but everybody loses games.
Yes.
It happens. So
yeah, and if it were me,
I wouldn't talk too much.
I wouldn't put too much stock into it either, but that we have reached the point now where now that these guys are at the top of the draft list, it's time to start tearing them down in every way possible because that's what the NFL does. Why? I don't know.
We saw that already this year with Darnold because he had all the hype coming off the Rose Bowl win last year. And it was, he's going to be the runaway Heisman winner. And as soon as he struggled a little bit early on, it's like, oh, well, maybe. Right. And then they lose to Washington State. And, oh, God, look, maybe he's not. Maybe we shouldn't. So it's been happening all year for him. And I was almost convinced based on what I know of him, talking to people around here where he's from, and knowing him and just seeing how he kind of played this year. I thought, oh, he's going to stay for sure. So I was a little surprised that he is going out. But
did he declare he's going to leave?
He did. He did while we were doing the show. He declared.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, when you get that lottery ticket, you got to cash it. You can't wait.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. You look at even just with USC quarterbacks, you have the stories of the Matt Barkleys of the world that if they'd come out when they could have been drafted high. But he said, no, I want to finish up my college career. Went back for another year. There was more tape on him. People tore him apart. Yep. And then he got drafted in like the 4th round, and he went to obscurity.
Yep.
Then you have guys like Mark Sanchez, who started, I think, 12 total games in his college career before he left. And it had its mixed results. But, if you have a chance for the money, sometimes you just got to go for it.
Well,
and I think that's still good enough to where he can be built into something at the end of it.
Well, and in Sanchez's case especially, that was during the height of the USC little mini dynasty they had there, and there were a lot of people. I think he was on Leinert's backup, right?
Yeah.
And they were saying, this Sanchez kid's even better than Matt Leinart, and then he plays a year and all that. So, yeah, I mean, he went out and he took advantage of it, and I think that's what Darnold should do, too. Yeah. So good for him. Yep. Welcome to Cleveland, Sam. You'll find the weather here is a little different.
At least it's not Detroit.
Yeah. Yeah, Cleveland is probably far different than San Clemente, California. I think I can attest to that.
A little bit.
Fun times for Cleveland today. It's Cleveland.
In the Capital One Orange Bowl, Wisconsin proves that they're still a pretty good football team.
Yeah.
34-24 over the hometown Miami Hurricanes. Just a domination by Wisconsin. Pretty thorough. I thought they played extremely well and acquitted themselves nicely. And, we banged on them all year about playing in the weak division and all that sort of stuff, but they proved here that they had a weaker competition than most, but they're just as good as anybody else.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm still not entirely sold on that Miami Hurricanes team. I think they're pretty good, but I think they were a little highly overranked a little bit. Like, they're not bad. So I think Wisconsin's pretty good. I think Miami was not quite as good as we thought they are. But yeah, Wisconsin did a good job. And were it not for Michigan, they would be adding another victory to the Big Ten's undefeated bowl season. But you know how that works out.
Talking about the undefeated bowl season, the Big Ten. On the flip side, Washington did their part to add to a horrific bowl season for the Pac-12. I think they finished up 1-8 or 1-9, something like that.
Yep.
Penn State it was 35-28. It sounds close. It really wasn't. Penn State got ahead early and never let Washington back within,
There was a point for about 5 minutes in that game where it looked like Washington was actually going to be back in it, and then Penn State just put it in the other gear, and that was that. But for about 5 minutes, it was a close game.
Penn State only wins by a touchdown, but it's one of those things where Penn State's constantly up by 2 touchdowns because they keep answering their scores. Not really a competition. Penn State wins this one 35-28 over the Huskies of UW. The other of the smaller New Year's Bowls, but if you ask the winning team, it's the national championship game. The UCF Golden Knights knock off the Auburn Tigers 34-27.
That was a hell of a good game. That was a really good game.
UCF finishes 13-0 on the season, and if you ask them, they're national champions.
Well,
I wouldn't go that far.
Good for them, and I think that's fine if they want to do that. I don't think anybody's going to take it seriously, but maybe in 50 years they can convince their grandkids of it because no one will bother to look it up.
UCF beat Auburn, who beat Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah. I will make this argument in UCF's defense, though. I think, and I've said it from the start, they should have been given a shot in this playoff because
if you're the only undefeated team, I think you gotta, right?
Right. Yeah.
The question is, who do you knock out for them?
Alabama.
Yeah, but then Alabama, didn't they prove that they belonged?
I don't think anybody would argue that Alabama doesn't belong, but if you're going to put the premium on conference championships and you've got an undefeated UCF team there that I get it, they're a smaller conference and all that, but what would it have hurt? And then they go out and beat Auburn, and it wasn't like UCF was playing their absolute best and Auburn was kind of half-assed. They were two very evenly matched football teams. So I just think that in the future they've really got to start taking a closer look at the smaller schools in a situation like this in particular, where you had to pick a team that didn't win anything to make the field, make out the Final Four field there. Why not give UCF a shot? It's not going to hurt anything. Yeah. They could have gotten beaten just as bad as Clemson did. What the hell's the difference?
Yeah, I definitely think that this is a kind of a notch in the belt for the argument of going to 6 or going to 8.
Go to 8.
5 highest ranked conference champions and 3 at large. It'll be the best tournament in all the sports, I promise you.
Yeah, I mean it's a valid argument, especially because of something like this. But like I said, apparently their athletic director says that they will hang a national championship banner at their stadium.
Yeah, well, that would be fine back in the BCS era, when it wasn't clear cut. We have a playoff now, and that's the way it works. You don't get to decide, well, we're going to not acknowledge the playoff and declare ourselves national champions. It doesn't work like that anymore.
It would be like if the Sharks just decided to hang a banner that said like Stanley Chalice champions. It's like, no. No.
But here's another interesting point that somebody makes. Based on UCF's logic, here's what I'm going to throw at you. Idaho beat South Alabama, who beat Troy, who beat LSU, who beat Auburn, who beat Alabama and Georgia. Well,
Idaho's your national champion. Right, yeah, go Potatoes, or whatever they're called.
Idaho versus UCF for the national title.
I'd watch that. I'd be all over that. But yeah, I just think that this season is like
those two teams they just get together and schedule their own football game.
They got to play in that screwed up stadium. And was it Idaho that has that weird stadium that looks more like a basketball court?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, they got to play it there. But I do think that this does add to the argument that we probably need to move this thing to 8 teams, just because we just need to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. If we're gonna have, because what was the point? What was the big argument when we were doing the BCS? Right.
How
many years was Boise State not given a shot at anybody?
Yep.
In time and time again, Boise State proved, no, we're good enough. No, we're good enough. Utah did it too. Boise State, all these teams proved that they were able to do it. So now we do this to ostensibly pick the best teams and crown a champion. But I get it. UCF had a weaker schedule. Alabama had a share of weak teams too, man.
Yeah, I mean, who did Alabama play the week before Auburn? Remember, it was like
Mercer.
Yeah, the Chicago Obstacle Institute or something like that. I think we're playing the Fighting Eyeballs, the Chicago Optical Institute this week.
Alabama's 3 non-conference games were, they had 4 non-conference games. One of them was the season opener against Florida State, and they ended up being a blowout because the quarterback tears his ACL. You can't blame them for that. That's fine scheduling there. Fine. Great. Good job, Alabama. You scheduled a good game. Then they played Fresno State and Colorado State and Mercer.
Yeah.
Like, yes, in the past, Florida or Fresno State would be something to look at, but does Alabama need those games? Does Alabama need 2 of those games early in the season? And do they really need that Mercer game at the end of the year?
Well, it's like we talked about on the old football show with the week before they played Auburn, they always basically schedule a scrimmage.
Right, but what does that serve?
Practice. It's practice against live ammo, I guess.
Right, but if you need a practice game at that point in the season, then you're not ready.
No, I agree.
And the SEC has buys. The SEC has bye weeks built into their schedule. Yeah. You don't need an extra one. You don't.
I was under the impression that Fresno was a big deal, but maybe.
Well, they're not Mercer. They're better than Mercer, but it's just I think the whole point we're trying to make here is that it's time to open this thing up so that teams like UCF and the Boise's and the Utahs over the years don't get left out just because they're stupid enough to play a competitive schedule within the framework of who they play, as opposed to Alabama, who plays the SEC and then a bunch of stiffs. So I really don't know what the difference is, actually.
I think the solution is just the easiest one. It's 8 teams, and I think that's just what they've got to go to. It's a real clear-cut situation, in my opinion.
I completely agree.
Yeah, no, it makes all the sense in the world, but it'll still be a while until we get some change, because they're locked into this for a few more years based on the con.
Yep.
But now to the real games, the college football playoff semifinals. I think we got to start with the classic Rose Bowl game. Georgia and Oklahoma, the number 3 team, Georgia, number 2, Oklahoma, SEC champ versus Big 12 champ. And for a while, it looked like Oklahoma was just about to run away with this thing. That Oklahoma, we had underrated Oklahoma all year, that they were really one of the best teams in the entire nation. They were beating up on the Bulldogs at halftime. What was it, 31 to 17?
Yeah, it did not look good for Georgia at all.
No. But the Bulldogs, they found their strength on the line of scrimmage in the second half. Their defense started getting after Baker Mayfield. They started running the ball like hell, and they go ahead in the fourth quarter, end up tying the game, going into overtime. They both kick a field goal. In double overtime, Georgia blocks the field goal by Oklahoma, and then Georgia, for the second time in the game, they did the direct snap to the running back for a touchdown. And they win it 54-48, the highest scoring Rose Bowl in Rose Bowl history, and the first Rose Bowl to ever go into overtime. Obviously, an instant classic there in Pasadena.
Can I just say this too? That if I were in charge of sports, every national championship game would be played at the Rose Bowl.
Agreed. Agreed. In my version, Greg, of your 8-team playoff. Like, it's pretty much exactly yours. Top 5 conference champions plus 3 at large. But the caveat to that is that once you get around to scheduling all the games, the national title game is always the Rose Bowl.
Is there a better place for a college football game than the Rose Bowl? If there is, I've never seen it. It is just so perfect. I mean, the field is beautiful. Everything about it is just outstanding.
They make, I mean, the way that they take care of that field every year, every year we get stories written about it down here. You read plenty about it, how they resawed the field immediately after UCLA's last game, and they prep everything for this game. The way that it just looks when it gets to the time of day that they schedule it is perfect.
Yeah.
Fourth quarter rolls around. You get the sun setting on the San Gabriel Mountains.
It's just perfect.
Yeah. I've never actually been to a Rose Bowl game, but it's on the short list of things that I want to do.
If I could pick one college game to go to, it would be at the Rose Bowl. I mean, it's just stunning to look at. It's so perfect.
And not go to a UCLA game at the Rose Bowl. No. You have to go to the Rose Bowl.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love, like, if Ohio State made the Rose Bowl, that would be my dream game to go see them play. Would be at the Rose Bowl, because it's just one of those things, like a lot of people say the Super Bowl should always be at the Superdome. I think with college football, the national championship should always be played at the Rose Bowl, just because it's just perfect.
Baker Mayfield joins just a pile of Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks that have not done well in bowl games.
Yeah.
It's really kind of spectacular, the amount of guys that haven't played well.
Only Matt Leinart, of all people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, right. And I think Oklahoma could, we had always undervalued Oklahoma just because it's the Big 12 and they don't play defense, but they showed that they're good enough.
But you know what?
They were right there at the end.
But look at it though. I mean, again, what cost them in the end? Not being able to play enough defense.
Yeah.
It just, but yeah, it was a fantastic game. God, it was just fun to watch, and great looking uniforms on both sides, and the best venue in all of college football. You can't beat it, and then you got a great game out of it too.
Yeah.
But the only unfortunate thing for me is we got an all-SEC title game now, but that's what you get.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
as classic as the Rose Bowl was, the Sugar Bowl was
not so
kind
much.
of a tut.
Yeah.
Obviously, this Clemson team was not as good as it was last year, and they get it was 24-6, but it was never that close.
No.
Just Alabama had control of this thing from the start, and I mean, this is kind of what we expected to happen. If you let Alabama back into this playoff, we kind of thought, well, yeah, this is what they can do. They can ruin the whole thing, and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Georgia win next week. I just don't see it happening. They could. I want to bring
Georgia will win. I will say right now that I think Georgia is going to win the national title.
That'd be great.
But I know we had the precedent last year with Ohio State, getting in as they did.
Yeah.
But I just don't feel good about letting Alabama in this one. Not because it's Alabama, and it's because there wasn't a good enough team that you could say that had a good enough argument to go in.
Well, see,
not at the time. It's just
I didn't like letting Ohio State in last year. I didn't like it last year when Ohio State got in. This is just not the way you should do this.
Yeah, it's not even a bigger division. I think I just wish that there was a team that had a good enough resume that we could plausibly put over it. Because
we did. We had UCF.
Yeah, but it's like I know Alabama's one of the best teams in college football, and I know that they could probably win the national title every year. But if they don't do the things that are supposed to get you in position to do that, if you don't win your division, if you don't play in the conference championship game, if you don't win your conference championship, you shouldn't be let in this thing as it's currently constructed.
Yep.
If it's 8 teams, if it's an 18 playoff, as we said, then maybe, okay, they get in and, people will have their problems with that. Well, they didn't win it then, but that would be, at that point, you're going to be winning 3 extra games to win the national title.
Well, not only that, if you go to 8 teams, then it's harder to make the argument that you've left out someone. I mean, of course, team number 9 is always going to like it, but when you at 8 teams, the best 4 are in there somewhere. Is my point.
Well, it's not even that. Like, I have less complaints about cutting off 9.
Yeah.
But also, you would win 3 more games. If you can prove yourself in 3 more games against the best competition we can put against you, then sure. But here it's, okay, Alabama beats a Clemson team that I didn't really think was all that great all season anyway. I mean, clearly, they lost to friggin' Syracuse. Yes, Alabama lost, but they lost to Auburn. Yes, Georgia lost, but they lost to Auburn. So...
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like having Alabama in it either. I want Georgia to win, but I don't know that they will.
All that matters is that an SEC team will win, as God intended.
As God intended. All right, guys, before we go, I want to give you an idea I had for the glorious tournament of victory for this year.
Okay.
I think this is going to be the 6th one, right? Anyway, whatever the case, I had this idea. Why don't we this year have the super tournament where we go back, we've all got enough entries now, where we pick the 16 best of the best of our brackets over the years and throw them together into one big super bracket for the tournament this year. What do you think?
I like.
Yeah? Like, we could bring back, like, Jupiter or, some, just, you know what I mean? Go back and pick the very best of the 16 that we've had over the 5 years.
The cursed Colonel Sanders statue, yeah.
Right, or you're the one that the giant turtle with the universe on its back.
Oh, yeah, Cosmic Turtle.
Cosmic Turtle, yeah. So something to think about. I wanted to throw it out there to see what the listeners think. So let us know what you think about maybe... Nothing decided yet, but maybe we have a super GTOV this year where it's like all the greats from the past come back to battle it out.
To do a Hunger Games reference, a quarter quell, if you will.
Right, a quarter quell. There you go. Perfect. On that note, we're going to call it a night. You can follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Let us know what you think about the Super GTOV. Subscribe to the show via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and YouTube, and find us on Facebook. We'll see you next week.
See ya.